Welcome to the How to Be Awesome at Your Job podcast, the show where brilliant professionals share how to sharpen the universal skills required to flourish at work. Enjoy more career fun, wins, meaning, and money with your host, Pete Makaitis.
Hello, and thanks for joining us for episode 879 with Selena Rezvani. Selena's back with great perspective on how to get confidence quickly, to bring it back when you need it most, and to cultivate it just all the time so it's ready for you. So you'll learn 1, the 3 elements of unshakable confidence, 2, how to effectively deal with your biggest insecurities, and 3, the secret to talking to intimidating people. So if you want to check out the show notes or the transcript or the links to some of the pieces that we mentioned here, please visit us over at awesomeatyourjob.com/EP879. And while you're at awesomeatyourjob.com, I encourage you to check out some of our handy resources like the Gold Nugget email summary, which provides a summary write-up of the wisdom Selena shares in a quick email you can read in about 2 or 3 minutes. And when you sign up for the Gold Nuggets at awesomeatyourjob.com, you also unlock the whole archive of all 879 of these summary write-ups. Good stuff there. Here's some good stuff about Selena. Selena Rezvani is a recognized consultant, speaker, and author on leadership. She's coached and taught some of the brightest minds in business addressing audiences at Microsoft, the World Bank, Under Armour, HP, Pfizer, Harvard University, Society of Women Engineers, and many others. Her advice has been featured in Harvard Business Review, the Los Angeles Times, the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, Oprah.com, ABC and NBC television. And today she writes on leadership for NBC's Know Your Value. Over the last 3 years, Rezvani has launched 25 popular online courses on LinkedIn Learning. She's also the author of 2 other leadership books, the bestseller Pushback, How Smart Women Ask and Stand Up for What They Want, and The Next Generation of Women Leaders. She has a BS and Master of Social Work degrees from New York University and has an MBA from Johns Hopkins University. Rezvani lives in Philadelphia with her husband, Geoff, and 10-year-old boy-girl twins. Big thanks to Selena for sharing her wisdom with us. And big thanks to our sponsors. Check them out. One sponsor to check out is Storyworth. Whenever I'm thinking about meaningful Father's Day gifts, Storyworth leaps to mind. Storyworth helps you preserve precious memories and stories from your father for years to come. Each week, Storyworth emails your loved ones a thought-provoking question that you get to help pick, such as, what's the bravest thing you've ever done? I personally love the prompt so much that I have refreshed Storyworth's questions page many times looking for more. Storyworth makes the writing process super quick and easy. All your loved one needs to do is respond to that email with a story, and then you get a quick copy of that. And after a year of this fun, Storyworth compiles your loved one's stories and photos into a beautiful keepsake hardcover book that you'll be able to share and revisit for generations to come. Families love Storyworth so much, they've got 25,000 5-star reviews on Trustpilot and have millions of stories preserved. So give all the fathers in your life a unique, heartfelt gift they'll all cherish for years. Storyworth. Right now, you can save $10 on your first purchase when you go to storyworth.com/awesome. That's storyworth.com/awesome to save $10 on your first purchase. And big thanks to our sponsor, Acorns. Acorns makes it easy to start automatically saving and investing for your future. You don't need a lot of money or expertise to invest with Acorns. In fact, you can get started with just your spare change. Acorns recommends an expert-built portfolio that fits you and your money goals, then automatically invests your money for you. NerdWallet.com, whom I love on these sorts of matters, gives Acorns a whopping 4.7 stars and says, quote, if you want to make the most of your spare change, there's no better place to do that than Acorns. Head to acorns.com/awesome or download the Acorns app to start saving and investing for your future today. And we got a legal disclaimer here. It may not be representative of all clients. Tier 1 compensation provided. Compensation provides an incentive to positively promote Acorns. View important disclosures at acorns.com/awesome. Investing involves risk, including the loss of principal. Please consider your objectives, risk tolerance, and Acorns' fees before investing. Acorns Advisors LLC, Acorns, is an SEC-registered investment advisor. Brokerage services are provided to clients of Acorns by Acorns Securities LLC, member FINRA/SIPC. For more information, visit acorns.com. One sponsor to check out is Harvard Business Review. This brilliant magazine, published at hbr.org, is the leading destination for smart management thinking. Fun fact, HBR has been mentioned in 108 episodes of the show. That's because HBR has great stuff that comes up often. They've got explainer videos, podcasts, real-world case studies, and much more. I think of HBR each night that I put on my special orange glasses. Their article, Will Blue Light Glasses Improve Your Sleep?, revealed that those who wore them reported better sleep and a 7% improvement in work performance as compared to those who wore the sham glasses. So I cite HBR anytime anyone tells me that I look silly wearing them. Now, much of HBR's content is available for free when you sign up at their site. Subscriptions that get you unlimited content cost $10 a month. If you visit hbr.org/subscriptions and enter the promo code AWESOME, you can save 10% off of that subscription. Again, to save 10% off of your HBR subscription, go to www.hbr.org/subscriptions and enter the promo code AWESOME. Now, here's Selena. Selena, welcome back to How to Be Awesome at Your Job.
Thank you, Pete, for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited to be chatting. I think you've got perhaps the most perfectly titled book for our audience in memory. Quick Confidence, Be Authentic, Boost Connections, and Make Bold Bets on Yourself. All those sound great. So I think we're going to have a lot of fun here.
Yeah, I am so excited about the book. It's newly in people's hands and soon to be in their ears too as an audiobook.
Oh, that's great. Did you spend lots of time in a studio?
6 hours and 49 minutes, Pete. So
that's finished audio, but like how long were you in there?
Yeah, about 3 days, 3 full days.
Yeah.
So it was a different kind of lift for sure than some projects. Definitely felt good to have a hot cup of tea after those big days of speaking.
Oh, I bet. That is plenty. And speaking of big lifts, or maybe that's a terrible segue, I want to know about your mango eating contest performance. So lay it on us.
Yeah. So one of my first trips as an adult, I got to enter a mango eating contest and then actually smash it and win. So it's really fun. I couldn't use my hands. Pretty slippery endeavor. But yeah, they had it at my hotel and it's a title. I wish I had like a wrestling belt with that on the front, that I have that mango eating contest winner. Unfortunately, no takeaway from that, but just the story.
Well, leave it to me to invent a takeaway, Selena. I think we'll find one perhaps. But first, I got to get clear on the rules. You're supposed to eat a mango as quickly as possible without any hands?
They're pieces of mangoes without any hands. Yep. So cut up.
I was going to say, it's so hard to peel them.
Yeah, that's right. It'd be hard to do the other way.
Mm-hmm. All right. And how many competitors were there?
There were 3 other people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. Are you a mango fan to this day? Has it shifted your relationship to mangoes?
It is. I love mangoes, always have. So I think it just only strengthened my love. I make mango lassies actually with fresh mango. So
my favorite part of the mango process is when you slice them very uniquely. You have those little cubes and then they all just come off with a spoon and just feels like a victory. Just ready to go.
Yes, it's like an Instagram moment or something. You feel like one of those chefs.
Oh, you could. Very much. All right. Well, let's talk about your latest Quick Confidence, Be Authentic, Boost Connections, and Make Bold Bets on Yourself. That all sounds so fantastic. I'd love it if you could kick us off with maybe a particularly striking, startling, counterintuitive discovery that you came up with as you were digging in, putting together, and doing your research for this one.
Yeah, well, I think for so many of us, confidence can feel like this elusive trait. You're either born with it or you're not. And in fact, one of the joys of writing this book was breaking confidence down into 3 elements that are learnable, that we can practice and all get better at. And those are your mindsets, your beliefs, your body language, how you're carrying yourself, and then, of course, your interactions, those interpersonal moments with others. So I know, Pete, for so long in my own career, I felt like that very good, but second or third choice job candidate.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't so much because of my competence as it was my confidence. So it's really rewarding and exciting to get to share with people what I've learned once I really started to focus on building confidence in my life. You know, it changed my life. And I know most people don't have a lifetime to learn this. So lots of quick, actionable strategies and quick confidence to get better at this.
So when you talk about changing your life, I'd love to get a clear sense, either if it's your story or someone else you know who's a reader or client, What's possible and what's at stake in terms of the upgrade in confidence we can actually get our hands on and what that could mean for our careers and our lives?
Sure. Well, I think confidence can come in different forms, maybe not all the ways that we picture it as being superhuman or just extra bold. I can think of a time in my own career where I was feeling like every door I opened was the wrong door. I had graduated with a master's degree in social work. And while I loved the skills I was learning, the problem solving, the diagnostic skills, empowering people, I could not leave this job at work on the weekends. I was constantly thinking about my clients who were in very hard, difficult situations. And I have the utmost respect for people who can do this work. But it was becoming really clear to me, Pete, I was not suited to do this. And I tried it with different populations, groups, lost 10 pounds. Like I was a mess. And I remember in that moment of honestly shame and other things, like I just spent all this time learning this, investing in this degree. How could I not be right for this? Thinking I need to make a bold move here. I need to look outside this domain, and I'm certain there's ways I can apply these skills to other areas. I wish I could do it in the workplace, to use these same skills there. And I started looking all different places. I started asking people I knew, connections of connections, really feeling intent on finding an avenue where I could apply this, but stay sane and feel it was a sustainable path for me. And so one day I decided I'm looking everywhere. I went on Craigslist, and there, was this amazing job working at the Great Place to Work Institute. That's the company that ranks the Fortune 100 best places to work in America list. And they help really crummy workplaces kind of elevate the employee voice, to advocate for employees. And I applied for a job and I got it.
All right.
And how wonderful and lucky a break that was for me in terms of finding a home I really loved, where I could use those social work skills, but in a way that suited me. And I think it's not just those shiny, exciting moments, where confidence comes into play. I think sometimes it's in our desperate moments where we need to think of a more creative option. We need to do things differently.
And so in your journey there, the confidence gap or lack moment is, it sounded like your low point was, I spent all this time investing in the degree and such and doing this career, and it's not the thing. And so in that moment where you said there's shame in terms of, what's that sound like, if I may, inside your head? Like, I'm no good. I wasted this time. Like, what are you saying to yourself?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I think it was statements like, what were you thinking when you committed to this field? How could you be so off base in your calculation that this was right for you? How are you going to tell your mom, your siblings, your friends that this is kind of a fail or feels like one? So a lot of those thoughts. And then, of course, there's avoidance in addition to that, which is sometimes we put our heads down and we don't even listen to those thoughts. We just say, maybe I can power through. And I did a lot of that, which didn't work very well, but was an attempt.
It's fascinating when you started the story where I thought you were going was, and then you learned how you could put it down. And because Selena, I want that skill too. Because I love solving problems, cracking cases, but I think I'd be a terrible detective in that I would be thinking about the case nonstop and it would drive me nuts. Like if there's an open loop and unsolved problem, I'll just work away on it constantly. And in a way, I've come up with some great solutions. Another way, it's I just want to enjoy this time with doing something else with other people and being really genuinely present there. And sometimes I fall short. If there's a pressing, high stakes question in it and the answer is just out of reach and I can almost make the connections, but I can't. or politics. I think I enjoy trying to win people over, and I enjoy winning in general. And I think that'd be dangerous for my soul in terms of I could rationalize things and then just go down a slippery slope of I don't recognize myself anymore. Sounds like part of the confidence game is just recognizing what are your actual abilities, limitations, and not beat yourself up, but see, okay, well, given that, what would be the most suitable choice for me here?
That's right. And be willing to try things a different way, right? We can get really stuck in talking to ourselves mode, or why can't you just power through this? Rather than saying, maybe having that really honest conversation with ourselves. This isn't working. This feels like a wrong fit. This feels like something I'm forcing, and liberating yourself from that. I think there's confidence in liberating yourself from something that's not working. Then you can start to think creatively and look for solutions and new ideas. But there's something to be said for that acknowledgement when there's a voice screaming inside, we need to do things differently.
Certainly. And it sounds like it's a prudent, measured, wise acknowledgement as opposed to the globalized, oh, I'm worthless, I'm no good, I'm a failure, I'm a screw up, I'll never amount to anything, etc. Like all that head trash. But rather, I don't know who said it, that humility is not an underestimation of your skills, virtues, value, competence, but an honest assessment. Hey, I'm amazing at this and I'm not so great at this. And that's okay.
Yes. And you need to bring those, what I call rational counter statements to the stories you're telling yourself. Because if you're telling yourself a really overly negative story, rarely is that totally accurate, that it's all bad, right? Even my degree, right, is not wasted, is not somehow unusable. No, if anything, I'm thrilled I got that degree. And is this how I pictured using it? No, not doing coaching and training. But it's really important we bring that rational counter statement instead of, wow, I really stunk at that presentation. It's kind of like, you know what? I usually do a pretty good job at presentations. I left 2 or 3 items out this last time, but I'm going to take that and I'm going to learn from it. It's a very different way of self-coaching through the challenges that come up for all of us.
Okay. Well, any other examples of transformations or key benefits that you've seen become unlocked for folks when they're able to upgrade their confidence?
Yeah, I think one I have to share because it relates to this book, and it's really about dealing with rejections and fails.
Oh, yeah.
And at the same time, it's about listening to kind of some of the spark of your best ideas. The book, Quick Confidence, actually came from a newsletter I started during the pandemic on confidence with the same name, Quick Confidence. And I talked myself out of writing that, Pete, at least 5 different times, writing this newsletter, thinking, is it too fluffy? Does this make business sense? Right? Really second guessing it. And yet there was a part of me that wanted to share with people this little fortifier of confidence each week. And I wanted it too. And when I finally launched the thing, it was the first thing in my life that ever went viral.
All right.
It's 100,000 followers and subscribers strong today. And the beauty of it is it really became a forum and an exchange, not just a letter each week, but a place where people shared what confidence swings they were taking in their lives. And that's what ultimately led to the book. But again, even that process, right, wasn't like, okay, no more doubts, no more closed doors. There was 12 rejections over a year in terms of the book, and people saying, oh, I like that. I don't know. So I think proof that I may be the teacher in some cases, but I'm always the learner too. And what a humbling thing to go through many fails, rejections, but to really want to trust that spark of your best ideas and say, you know what, there's something here and I need to go back and ask another time. And that's actually how the book got greenlit, was asking a no to consider it one more time.
That's cool and beautiful in terms of what is possible when you are able emotionally to endure many rejections. I wrote a book in college, The Student Leader's Field Guide, and it didn't really ever do that well. But I remember I went through that process. This is back in the day with paper. I was making a one-page query letter to many, many publishers and agents because that's what the books told me to do. And then I had the experience of receiving literally dozens of letters back telling me no again and again and again. And I felt like almost like it was nourishing me or fortifying me in terms of having the experience of going to the mailbox like, oh, I got 3 letters. And they all say no. Like day after day after day. And ultimately I did get one offer, but I thought, you know what, if I just self-publish, it really would be that different than what you're bringing to the table. So yeah, I learned some things, and it is powerful when you are able to just go after it and not be harmed by rejections over and over again. Like, geez, so many things become possible.
Yes. And do you feel like that experience for you kind of thickened your skin in a good way for the future?
Absolutely. I think it unlocked for me the ability to pursue something when the odds were low. The odds that any one given person will say yes are well below 50%, maybe like 1 or 2% for me. And then I'm able to sort of go in eyes wide open with a number of entrepreneurial things. Like there's about a 30% chance this thing is actually going to work. And I'm going to go do it. And that's cool as opposed to, oh, okay, I guess, well, I should scrap that and try something better. It's like, well, even if you're looking at the data associated with venture capitalists and their success rates, most of them don't work out. And that's okay. To be able to embark on a whole universe of opportunities where the odds are against you and be okay with it is really cool.
Well, and how many people can say that? That's not something you hear very often. I wrote a book in college. Like, that's an amazing thing you have to show for that unpredictable kind of rocky road. So kudos to you.
Oh, thank you. Well, so let's dig in. We talked about 3 things: mindsets, beliefs, body language, and interactions. The book's called Quick Confidence. So why don't we start with what's the quickest thing we can do to get a confidence boost?
Well, I love sharing this one. I think you'll like it too, Pete. It's called dog code.
All right.
And this is something, if you're feeling a little rusty from the pandemic and isolation, maybe, that can help you with your social confidence specifically. And so if you think about when you go to somebody's house and there's a dog there, they don't sit in the corner and overthink it in terms of coming up to you. They don't talk it over with a friend first. They simply come right up to you and initiate contact. In a similar way, I think we can get a huge confidence boost when we make that the standard, when we make that a challenge to ourselves. That if I see somebody I'd like to say hello to, I'm going to be the first. I'm going to use dog code. I'm not going to say, well, gee, I wish they would come up to me, or maybe later in the party, I'll see them in the kitchen, right? But to make it that practice, that habit to go up to others and be the first. And it's pretty liberating. It's pretty amazing what can happen when you sidestep that overthinking process and make this a habit in your life. You're suddenly doing it automatically.
I like that notion a lot. Sidestepping the overthinking. The dog doesn't think, just goes. And so likewise, I'm trying to put myself in that situation and think of the thoughts I'm having and sort of like, oh, but this is sort of like an awkward angle, or I don't know. He seems like he's doing something. He's sort of already talking to someone else. There's any number of thoughts, and it's sort of hard to introduce yourself terribly in terms of like, if I wait for the perfect moment, that's somehow going to improve things. I mean, other than flagrantly interrupting them or someone else, hi, I'm Pete, you're probably all going to be fine. Just almost no matter what you do within normal reasonable behaviors.
I agree with you. And I think some people will get ahead and say to me, yeah, but what happens after that once I get there? And I think it's an okay goal to break the seal,
Mm-hmm.
to warmly say hello and let the connection be what it is. I don't think it's necessarily on you as the initiator to have to carry the entire thing, but I think it can do a lot and people will remember you when you are the first.
That's good. Sometimes when I'm in those situations, I like to be on the prowl for folks who they're not really in the groove yet. Like they're off to the side, they're looking at their phone, they're sort of staring off in space. And it's sort of like, this is prime time. Because if someone is in a social environment and they're on their phone, unless they look like totally riveted or they're speaking on their phone, it's like that usually means they're open for business, ready to be chatting, and would probably prefer to be speaking to you than looking at Instagram or whatever they're up to there.
And what an inclusive way to approach it. Noticing maybe who is feeling a little bit on the rim or doesn't have like a conversation partner. I think that's a really great way to use dog code and put it in action.
All right. So we got 3 bits: mindsets, beliefs, body language, interactions. Can we talk through each of them?
Yes. So we just touched a little bit on interaction with dog code, but another one that I'm asked about a lot in confidence or executive presence trainings is around dealing with intimidating people.
All right.
And finding the confidence to manage that. And so one of the mindset shifts I like to ask people to make is to really make a point to interact with the person, not the power.
Okay.
So not Jenny, the CMO of a Fortune 50 company, but Jenny, the flesh and blood human who is probably potentially a sister, a friend, a student from college that somebody knows. And to really approach that person more peer to peer, reminding yourself that you can be respectful of them and maybe their power, their title, their status, without playing small yourself. And I think that's an important distinction to make. You can even try this exercise I do sometimes, I've certainly done, called Just Like Me.
Okay.
And you think specifically about ways this person is just like you, even if they seem like the Queen of Sheba to you and you feel like you have nothing in common. You know, you might say to yourself, this person has felt discouraged, just like me. Or this person has wanted to make a good first impression, just like me. Or has been full of hope for a particular dream, just like me. Wished they could have 20 more minutes in bed this morning, just like me, you know? And so we're not stuck in this power differential that can often like seep our power if we play into that. If we say like, oh, Pete, I know you're so busy, so let me just like hurry up and speak to you really fast and get my words out as quickly as possible. Or if I overthank you constantly, thank you for meeting with me today. And then at the end, thank you again for taking the time out of your busy schedule. Sometimes we do these things, these like fawning actions that actually seep our power. And so it's not needed, even if you're dealing with the most intimidating figure. Treat them with respect, but don't shrink yourself.
That's so good. And I remember the first time I was in consulting and a real live CEO was going to be in a meeting and I was going to be there too. It's like, oh my gosh, I've read about these mythical creatures, CEOs, and there's going to be one. And I don't know if I thought he would like glow or something, but when we were actually there in the meeting, he just asked very normal questions that any normal person might ask during a meeting. Like, oh, does that number include the benefits or just the salaries? And I was like, that's what I would want to know. Wow.
Yes.
Like, oh yeah, they're normal people. And just like me is a great point. What is the expression? Oh, they put the pants on one leg at a time. It's like, okay, that's true. But more personally or to the point, they have many experiences of just common humanity that we all have. They get hungry, they get thirsty, they have to go to the bathroom, they get bored, they want to be sleeping some more. Sure.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And what's helped me stop doing some of that fawning and overthinking and shrinking myself is even realizing it may be sending the wrong message. It may be telling them, like, in fact, you did do something extraordinary when that may not be true. We're just collaborating. We're both here because we're trying to get our work done today and get a certain outcome. So it's a freeing notion to realize you can bring that egalitarian mindset and preserve your own confidence.
Let's talk a little bit more about mindsets and beliefs. I suppose you mentioned social confidence as one subcategory of confidence. And I'm curious, are there any mindsets or beliefs that are globally super useful in giving a confidence upgrade that you found?
Yeah, I think one in particular is affirming yourself with specific mantras that really speak to your insecurities. So I don't recommend necessarily using general platitudes. I don't find they work for me, saying like, I am peace or something. If it works for somebody else, that's fantastic. But I think what is more powerful is to really consider your specific insecurities. If maybe you're in a job interview and you're questioning your place there, you're feeling uncomfortable, this big shot environment, I'm not sure I belong. You might say things to yourself like, I earned my place here, or I belong here. I 400% belong here. Sometimes people will tell me it's not the anticipated path that makes them nervous. It's making mistakes. So if making a mistake was your concern, saying the wrong thing, you might tell yourself something like, if I take a wrong turn, I word something oddly in the interview, I can right myself. Just like a cat has writing reflexes, we can do the same. We can land on our feet. We can restate our message in a more eloquent way. And so I think there's wonderful things we can do to reassure ourselves that are more pointed and meaningful than anyone else's outside validation.
That is so powerful. And I'm reminded of that. When you talk about self-correcting, we interviewed Amy Edmondson and she endorsed your book as well. So I think she's fantastic. And she said, I just thought this was amazing. She said, it's about having a cheerful recognition that you're a fallible human being in a fast-paced, uncertain, ambiguous world. And for me, that was huge in terms of reducing some pressure. I guess I just self-imposed pressure to get it right, do well, perform, nail it, crush it, win. Like those sorts of things like, oh, and if I don't, then I'm bad or I've screwed up. It's that notion like this is the reality for all of us here. And thus the implication is, well, of course, we are naturally going to make some mistakes some of the time. And that is normal and to be expected of all of us. And so that reduces a lot of the pressure, the intensity, that which could shake my confidence.
Yes. And what a living legend Amy Edmondson is, and her contributions are just amazing. And I think that's a beautiful quote. I'm not surprised that stays with you.
Well, talk to us a little bit about body language now.
Sure. So I think we've all had situations where we felt less than confident. Let's say in a networking situation, for example. I can remember one in my own life where I was so excited to go there. It was many leaders I admired. And for whatever reason at this event, I just couldn't break into those little circles of people who were already formed. I remember kind of inserting myself in one duo, saying hello. And I remember them saying, do you mind if we just go back to talking to each other? Mm-hmm. And it was such a strange and uncomfortable situation.
Yeah.
And maybe we've all been there in some way or some form. In moments like that, it's very easy to want to shrink our body language, to maybe go inhabit the corner of the room, maybe make kind of furtive eye contact, low talk if we are going to engage with anybody, and make ourselves small. And I really encourage people to do the opposite in moments like this, even if it feels a little counterintuitive to do, to kind of big up your body language, to be conspicuous, celebrate what your mama gave you.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do that kind of even thinking from floor to ceiling. You can stand with your feet just a little more than shoulder width apart. I call this surfer stance.
Okay.
And you're really claiming your full bubble of space when you do this. And you want to make a point to stand tall. You want to try to brush the ceiling with the top of your head to really stand tall. And you want to be able to gesture freely. Often when we're feeling uncomfortable and nervous, we stand with our arms kind of glued to our rib cage. We don't motion, and yet gesturing is something that helps us be seen as more engaging and warmer. So I think a lot of these send a powerful message to ourselves that in fact we do belong. And we're not going to shrink from this situation, even if we don't get some of those cues, some of that validation we'd like.
That's good. That's good. This sounds a little bit like the power posing of Amy Cuddy. And I've dug into that research and I understand there was some controversy, but much of it was successfully replicated. And in terms of self-reports, but the cortisol find, it was sometimes harder to replicate. But sounds like what you found is, sure enough, this idea of expansive body postures gets it done.
It gets it done. And if you're even a remote worker who finds you're sitting a lot of the time, you can even apply it to that situation. Maybe you are interviewing for a job seated, or maybe you're in a Zoom situation making a big pitch or proposal. Making a point not to sit tentatively at the edge of your chair, which can make you look uncertain or like you're about to bolt out of the room, but to really make a point to envelop your full chair, to push your back all the way to the back cushion, to use the armrests to really spread out. It makes you feel different. I mean, that's what's neat.
Oh, what this brings to mind for me is Star Trek. In terms of when the captain sits down on the chair, it's the captain's chair and he or she owns that entirety of the chair. And it's interesting how you would think of a seated position can seem more passive or less in command. And yet we've got many series and many episodes of people demonstrating exactly how you sit in a chair like a boss.
That's right. Many of us have probably done it the other way, where you're kind of folded up very neatly in the center of the chair, taking up as little space as possible. Not exactly empowering. I don't think that really summons your boldness, your best ideas. Very different when you claim your space.
And you could just yell damage report to get things
right.
going in the meeting. It's well, this guy's in charge and a little out there.
Yeah, it worked on Star Trek.
Sure.
Why can't it work here?
All right, Selena, well, tell us, do you have any more quick tips, tactics that are just swell we should know about before we hear about your favorite things?
Yeah, I think one more important one for all of us to know is the most confident people, they keep the promises they make to themselves. And it means something when we make a promise or a commitment and we follow through on it. And boy, does it build our sense of confidence and esteem and our ability to say, I can do this again in the future. So realize if you're somebody who makes promises to yourself and you break them, this could be hurting your confidence. This could be getting in the way of you having lasting confidence that you can tap at any time. And some of the ways I recommend people handle that is to shrink some of the commitments or the promises they make to themselves so that they're more doable and manageable. And by the way, you get to feel the feel-good feelings, right, of achieving a goal when you shrink the size of it, or to just do it less often, to not do the, I'm going to start the diet on Monday, or I'm going to try to work out at 4 p.m., but to think about doing that less often. Because if you continue to do it, you kind of start to see yourself like that flaky coworker that you can't rely on, who usually doesn't follow through on what they say.
Okay. Thank you. Now could you share a favorite quote, something you find inspiring?
One of my favorite quotes is, first you seem powerful in your eyes, then you seem powerful in other people's eyes.
All right. And a favorite study or experiment or bit of research?
Yeah, one of the pieces of research I've been sharing a lot lately has to do with the crisis of confidence, particularly for younger people. Over half of young people agree that they've lost self-confidence as a result of the pandemic. And that's even worse for individuals for lower income backgrounds. So I think social isolation, job uncertainty, safety risks, health risks, it's done a number for a lot of us on our ability to feel successful and confident. And I think as important as it is to build our own self-confidence, we can also make a point to extend this to other people, to give others micro validations, that help them feel capable.
All right. And a favorite book?
I just finished reading a book called One Bold Move a Day by Shauna Hawking, and I really enjoyed it.
And a favorite tool, something you use to be awesome at your job?
Actually, it's an anti-tool, and I hope
Please.
that's okay, but it's been running without any tool. I'm such a multitasker that normally I like to listen to something at the same time. But you know what? I found resisting that urge and letting myself just have the open canvas, the thinking time has been not only rejuvenating, but led to some of my best ideas.
Okay. And a favorite habit?
I wake up 10 minutes before the rest of my family and I have coffee by myself in peace before dogs, cats, my twin children, my husband get up. And that little period of solitude with my warm cup of coffee while the birds chirp is everything.
Well, now I'm curious. How do you wake up 10 minutes before your husband? If there's an alarm, would that not wake up both of you?
Good point. He has a way of managing through.
Okay.
He knows.
Later.
It's a habit. We've got a lockstep system down by now.
Okay. And is there a key nugget you shared that really seems to connect and resonate with folks? They quote it back to you often?
I think what I'd say is confidence doesn't have to be loud. Let's reframe confidence not as being effortlessly cool or perfect or completely self-reliant, but as somebody who's not afraid to ask for help, somebody who has a learning growth mindset, somebody who gives confidence to other people.
All right. And if folks want to learn more or get in touch, where would you point them?
Well, I create new content daily for LinkedIn, TikTok, and Instagram. So I hope you'll check those out. And my book, Quick Confidence.
All right. And do you have a final challenge or call to action for folks looking to be awesome at their jobs?
Yes. And that is, if any of you kind of suffer with the overthinking that we've been talking about as a thread in this conversation, one thing you can try is to ask your body to do what your mind won't.
Okay.
So to simplify that task in front of you that you may be overthinking, you might say something like, hands, I want you to type up the application and hit submit. Or at an event, maybe you're hesitating. You might say, all right, legs, walk over to John and introduce yourself now. And it's, again, a way to sidestep some of that overthinking that can be so empowering.
Well, I like that so much. And what it does further is a lot of times I think I'll feel resistant, like, oh, that just seems too hard or too much for me right now. It's like, well, we really segmented it to, it's like, it's one specific body part is doing one specific thing that doesn't require any mental intervention whatsoever. So it just seems a little bit more doable. Like, okay, well, legs are going to do that. So, all right.
Right. It's your body's there kind of waiting to be a faithful service. Why not use it? Especially when your brain's maybe getting in the way.
Okay. Selena, thank you. This has been a lot of fun. I wish you much luck and confidence.
Thank you so much, Pete.
I really liked Selena's perspective on both the dog code and just ordering your body parts to do the things you want. And both of them sharing the theme of taking your brain out of it and just getting in motion. The feet are walking, the fingers are typing, and we're just going to let them do their thing without overthinking it, without second guessing, without inviting all the self-consciousness. Just be in bodily motion. And that can often do the trick right there. Good stuff from Selena. Again, the show notes, the transcript, links to items we've referenced are at awesomeatyourjob.com/EP879. Hope to catch you next time, and peace.
Thanks for listening. To get the most out of the show, we recommend 2 key things. First, check out the extra resources at awesomeatyourjob.com. You can find this episode's transcript and links, as well as the perfect episode for your situation. You can search the full text transcripts of hundreds of episodes or explore episodes tagged by topic and competency covered. Second, subscribe to the podcast and get future episodes automatically. You can subscribe by telling Siri and several other smartphones and speakers, subscribe to the How to Be Awesome at Your Job podcast, or by tapping subscribe in your podcast player of choice. If you'd like some extra help figuring out podcasts and how subscriptions work, visit awesomeatyourjob.com/subscribe for guidance. Hope to catch you on the next episode of How to Be Awesome at Your Job.